In 1923, the Weimar Republic was buckling under the weight of catastrophic hyperinflation. A single loaf of bread cost billions of marks. Desperate citizens queued for hours just to secure basic groceries, creating a pervasive atmosphere of economic misery and radicalism. That desperation finally boiled over. On a cold November evening, an armed militia violently smashed its way into a crowded beer hall, firing shots into the ceiling to seize control of the room. This was the Burger Bräukeller in Munich. Here, Adolf Hitler and his paramilitary force, the SA, held Bavarian government officials hostage at gunpoint, loudly declaring the start of a national revolution. But the coup collapsed almost instantly. The regular army and police opened fire on the marchers. 14 Nazis were killed in the streets, the leaders were arrested for treason, and the party was outlawed. To the authorities and the general public looking at the aftermath, the threat was over. This radical, violent fringe group had been entirely dismantled. The Weimar government put Hitler on public trial to make an example of him. Instead, sympathetic judges allowed him unlimited time to speak. He used the highly publicized courtroom as a megaphone to attack the Republic, broadcasting his ideology across Germany and turning himself into a recognizable political figure. He was handed a lenient 5-year sentence, of which he served only 9 months. Confined to a cell in Landsberg prison, he dictated Mein Kampf and used the forced isolation to reevaluate the party's entire approach to capturing power. Any attempt to confront the national military directly ended in failure. To gain control of Germany, the movement would have to win power through the existing constitutional framework. This was the start of the legal revolution, a commitment to winning elections and dismantling the democracy from the inside. By forcing them to abandon armed rebellion, the military defeat in Munich inadvertently set the stage for their future survival. When the ban on the party was lifted, the new strategy required strict coordination. However, the organization was fractured by intense ideological and regional divides. In the north, Gregor Strasser led a powerful, more socialist-leaning faction of the party that frequently clashed with Hitler's southern base in Bavaria. At the Bamberg Conference, Hitler moved aggressively to crush this dissent, enforcing a strict new organizational doctrine. They called it the Führerprinzip, the leadership principle. It dictated that absolute, unquestioning obedience flowed downward from a single supreme leader. All democratic debate was permanently abolished. Subverting a national democracy legally required a ruthless, highly disciplined machine behind the scenes, where orders were executed without hesitation. With internal resistance eliminated, the party expanded its footprint. They carved the map of Germany into administrative districts, placing loyal administrators in charge of pushing their influence out of Munich and into every local town. To fuel this massive bureaucracy, they needed steady revenue. Gregor Strasser was placed in charge of finances, successfully securing vital funding from wealthy conservative industrialists who feared communism. They also began building specialized branches to capture specific demographics. They formed the Teachers' League, a union for lawyers, and the Hitler Youth, embedding their ideology directly into the daily lives of distinct social groups. Under the direction of Joseph Goebbels, their messaging became highly sophisticated. They engineered targeted direct mail campaigns, staged massive, meticulously choreographed rallies, and embraced modern technologies like airplanes and widespread radio broadcasting. Every separate piece was designed to pull citizens into a Volksgemeinschaft, a self-contained people's community. They were constructing a parallel, authoritarian society right under the Weimar Republic's nose. By 1928, the infrastructure was complete, and party membership had swelled to 108,000. Yet their first major national electoral test was a disaster. This chart shows the results of that vote. The Nazi Party captured a tiny 2.6% of the national electorate, securing only 12 seats in the Reichstag. The lack of support had a clear cause. Germany was experiencing a period of recovery. Foreign loans had stabilized the economy, hyperinflation was a memory, and cities were bustling with trade and cultural energy. When citizens have jobs, stable currency, and food on the table, extreme rhetoric falls flat. There was simply no market for political upheaval. Then, in October 1929, the American stock market collapsed. The foreign loans keeping the Weimar Republic afloat were called back, instantly severing Germany's financial lifeline. Businesses were shuttered, and banks failed across the country. Millions of workers were thrown onto the streets. The economic contagion wiped out German prosperity almost overnight, and mass desperation returned in full force. By 1929, the party had transformed into a nationwide political machine, fully funded and positioned to absorb the spreading panic. It proves a sobering historical reality. The deepest danger to a democracy is an organization that learns to play by the rules, building its power in the shadows and waiting for a crisis to strike.